So this talk is called How the Web Evolves with Hypermedia. I've already been introduced. My name is David Zuelke, and you can alternatively spell my last name like this. That, of course, means I'm German. I'm from the beautiful city of Munich. Oktoberfest is just over, so everyone's a little bit sad because the beer ran out. I work there as a founder of a company called Bitextender. We do various web development consulting things, and I'm also the lead developer of the Agave framework. This is my Twitter nickname. If you'd like to poke fun of me on Twitter whilst I'm speaking, I'd be delighted. I can't see it anyway. So, we want to talk about how the web and how it evolves and whatever this hypermedia thing is. Who has heard of the term hypermedia? Who has heard of the term hypertext? A lot more, right? So it's basically the same thing. We can maybe address this in a moment where I'm quoting Roy Fielding. Who's heard of Roy Fielding? Okay, so that's the guy who's invented REST. Who has heard of REST? Keep your hands up if you've heard of hypermedia as the engine of application states. Okay. Interesting. So the web first, okay? That's the first part. Because the web really is the largest application of the internet. I mean, there's email, and before there's been Gopher, and there's DNS that cause a lot of traffic. But ultimately, the World Wide Web is the first data exchange system that spans the whole planet. Our planet is called Earth. It looks like this, in case you didn't know. It's a photo the guys on Apollo 17 took. I think it's very nice, although they had a slightly nicer view. And there's a million and a billion dots on this planet, and they're all connected, and they can exchange information. And if I send half of this room an email, half of this room can read this email. The other half of this room is going to be, can you forward me the email? And then the rest of the half of the room is going to be, yeah, what's your email address like? And then that's total chaos, right? So you can't retrieve emails anymore. We send billions of them every day, but the web makes data accessible. But the question is, why does that work so well? And the fundamental reason why the web has grown to be this massive system that really provides information from every country on every subject you can imagine, where everyone can add information and it somehow doesn't bog down the infrastructure, is due to the hyperlink. Because the hyperlink means I can click something, I can follow a link, and it takes me somewhere. That means the web has no tight coupling, right? It's loosely coupled by design. It has the concept that I can link to google.com, and google.com doesn't have to link back to me. That was actually a concept that in the very, very first drafts of HTML was under consideration, and I could have done this. Some of you might know the rel attribute on links. There is a ref attribute, which is the reverse relation, right? So maybe on the very first days of the web, when Tim Berners-Lee and the others invented the World Wide Web at the CERN in Geneva, Switzerland, they thought, maybe every link should link back because then our documents are always, consistent in the links and we never have dead links. But that wouldn't work because you'd need a notification infrastructure, right? So first of all, there is this totally ridiculous thing where I link to Google and I'd have to call Google and say, hey, can you link back to me because my link won't work otherwise. So that doesn't work, right? And then the other thing is, I delete my link again to google.com, and then Google somehow needs to say, oh yeah, hold on, let me delete my reverse link. And if they don't, maybe I can't take my link down. But it's not like that. The web has a 404 not found, and then the stuff is gone. And that is in its design. It's not an afterthought. The web fundamentally embraces failure as one of its core principles, right? And if you want to add more information to the web, then that doesn't increase the friction. Well, it increases the friction in that you need to be able to find the stuff, but that's what search engines are for, right? But it's not like at some point you reach some sort of network limit other than bandwidth, which is another topic. But from an information architecture, you can grow it to any size you want. So it has no limits to scalability. And that is because it's protocol-centric. There is no application semantics. It uses HTTP and what's called the uniform interface of HTTP that we're going to look at later briefly. This is not supposed to be a technical talk. The technical aspects of this will be covered in the talk right after this keynote, I think in this same room. So that is the web. But this web that I talked about is mostly the human web, right? I click something, and I do something on the web. And when the web changes, that's not a big deal. When I started using the World Wide Web, that must have been in 96 or 97. Who remembers what Yahoo looked like in 1997? It was a hand-maintained catalog of stuff, right? And you'd have 4 really wonky pages, all of them hosted on GeoCities or something. So that was 1997, and Yahoo looked like this, right? And then in 2011, it looks like this. It's pretty different, but as humans, we try, most people go to Yahoo to find something. I mean, honestly, nobody gives a shit about horoscopes, I hope anyway, right? Or what is OMG? I don't know. Maybe some people have it as a start page because their browser install just did it and they don't know how to get rid of it. But what sane person, okay, anyway. The point is that humans can adapt, right? In 1997, when I went to Yahoo and I wanted to find something, there was a search box. And the years go past and the search box is still there, right? So over these 14 plus years that I've used Yahoo, and it's older than 1997, I've been able to search it. For the last 14 plus years, I've also found it incredibly ugly, but that's a different story. And the point is that, or the cool concept is that our human brains are kind of like a state machine on the web. And we drive the interactions. My brain is a pretty bad state machine because basically it loses memory all the time, right? So I go to the fridge, and then I'm at the fridge, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? And that has its upsides too, because I can use that knowledge that I have a goldfish-like memory to surprise myself. So sometimes I eat chocolate, and then I decide I don't want to eat the other half of the chocolate. So I put the chocolate somewhere out of my sight, because otherwise I would eat it. And then it's like behind me, on a shelf. And 2 days later, I walk back into the same room, and I see the chocolate, and it's like Christmas for me. But I hope not everyone has such a bad memory. So you guys are probably better state machines than I am. But even I manage to focus for a few minutes at a time usually, and I often get bored, right? And when I'm bored, I pretty quickly think, I want to do something awesome, or maybe buy something awesome, and then I think, what awesome things do I have? And I have this Pac-Man stress ball. It's pretty cool, right? Yeah, see? But that gets boring after a while. And then I'm back in this boring loop. And then I think, okay, maybe I can buy something awesome. And then, so I go to Amazon, right? Who doesn't go to Amazon? Like, the only things I ever buy are from Amazon. If it's not on Amazon, I don't buy it. It doesn't exist. No, really? No, honestly, because I have to sign up, and they don't show me the shipping costs. And also, I don't even buy from Amazon if it's not sold by Amazon. So I just won't buy it. I don't have a TV because the one I want is not on Amazon. So I go to Amazon, right? And I enter awesome stuff. And the first page is not really awesome. I think it's fucking lame. So I click the next page, right? And that's still dull and start, no. There's patterned duct tape maybe, but it's all stupid. Like really stupid. Laser star is kind of cool. I like lasers, right? But it's not with a shark. So it's just a laser. I want sharks with laser beams attached to their heads. So, and I click through, and then I find this. Progressive International GMMC 68 microwavable s'mores maker. Who knows what s'mores are? No, it's this. Hold on, there's a point to this. Okay, so s'mores work like this. Like, you're in America, you're at a campfire, and you toast a marshmallow. And then you have chocolate, and you put the chocolate on a cracker and the marshmallow on it and a cracker on top. And the hot marshmallow melts the chocolate, and it's like a very yummy, heavy-calorie snack. And then you eat 100 of them, and then you get, well, diabetes. And this thing catches my attention because, I mean, it looks pretty cool, right? It's funny. Apparently you put water in and then put it in the microwave and then it does something fancy. So it makes something to eat. And that is amazing. Also, I think Progressive International GMMC68, that's like Cyberdyne Systems, you know? No, honestly, these people probably make fighter jets and robots and submarines, so that's damn cool. And I think GMMC68 could also be a Terminator model name. So I'm like, also, I happen to have owned the GMMC66 and 67, which the one was a shark with a rocket engine, and the other one was, wait for it, no, that's not cool. This is better, a shark with laser beams attached to it. So this s'mores maker, it's not a shark, but it's still awesome, right? So I want that. So I'm going to buy it. So I put it in my shopping cart, and then they're like, pay with your currency. So they're gently telling me with a very nicely designed ad that they're going to screw me over with their currency conversion. But I don't care at this point because it's just $6. So I click next, and then I can log in because I already have, who doesn't have an Amazon account, right? So I click next, and then I can place my order. So far, so good. I mean, it's a bit pricey. So maybe I'll click cancel at this point, but that's totally up to me, right? So there's a point to this. If we model this process as code, because I suck at these diagram things, and I'm not an artist either. So if you ask me to draw a circle, the ends won't meet. So I have to write code, right? And the code looks something like this. So while David is bored and not broke, I first squeezes the Pac-Man stress ball because that takes the stress out. But I'm probably still bored. So there's like actually a hard-coded. But this is my state machine. Right? This is somewhere in here. So I make a new browser to Amazon.com, and while I'm not happy, I go through this state. And if I go to this page first, I'm on the home page, so it fires up a search to awesome stuff, right? And then it breaks. The while loop ends, and I'm still not happy. And the next item is a search results page. Does that page have something awesome? It didn't for me, but it has more pages, so I'll go to the next page. And that happened 4 times, if you paid attention earlier. And then all of a sudden, there was some awesome product. Also, check this. So if there's nothing awesome, I'll go to sleep for an hour and try again. Because I have the fundamental belief that whenever there's a problem that you can't be asked to solve, maybe it's gone away after you've woken up. So I'm going to retry. But anyway, so now I've found the product, right? So I follow the awesome product. How does that work? I click a link, right? I click the link to the product, which is the s'mores maker. And then I'm on our product page. I could have added maybe a do I really like it condition here, but I ran out of space. So I click the add to cart button, right? And that gets me here. So that's fine. I click to the checkout. And then it takes me to the login or register. And then I can follow to the login, or I can follow to the registration. But since my brain knows that I have an Amazon account, I enter my details, and I click proceed. So I follow login. That takes me to the order summary. And I follow the click to the confirmation, and with a 50% chance, I'll be happy. So, and then the thing is over, I think, I hope. And otherwise, I'm going to buy something else. That was really easy, right? But why is that so easy to model as code? Because these conditions the follow the next page. Is it awesome? Is it awesome is a difficult condition. That's like up to taste and maybe some weird conditions or artificial intelligence or maybe the position of the sun on the sky. So it was easy because it was driven by my brain, right? And we all, with our intelligence, our human intelligence, we drive the interactions on the web. Intelligence is not, it's always relative, right? So there can also be little intelligence on the web. And then the idiots drive the interaction. And that's happened sometimes. For instance, there was this really fun story last year where people, you know, people who Google website addresses, like they type Amazon.com in Google and then click the first hit. So people apparently type Facebook login, click the first link, right? So, and there's this readwriteweb.com, Facebook wants to be your one true login. So, of course, I click that if I want to log into Facebook, right? And then I end up at this page, and that kind of looks like a newspaper, but maybe I don't understand that. So I scroll all the way down and click a few random buttons until a sign in with Facebook page appears. This really happened. And then I click sign in with Facebook, and it takes me back to the comments, and I get really stupidly frustrated, and I post angry rants. Like, I want the old Facebook back, this shit is whack. This really happened, like a guy like writing an article like this, like, I was just learning Facebook and now they changed everything, and why is it red, not blue? Well, maybe because you're not on fucking Facebook. Right? So that can also happen. So don't make things too complicated. In this case, it was clearly non-computer savvy people and also people who can't tell a newspaper from a fire hydrant. But hey, so they added this note eventually. Right, but that didn't fix the problem. It was like an influx, and then I think Google just at some point said, okay, this is really terrible, and they just, you know, notched it down. But it was the first or second hit for a while. So be careful what you wish for with the intelligent interactions. So that's the human web, right? It's things driven by humans. And humans are insanely good at adapting to changes. So if Amazon decided to give me the order summary and the shipping cost estimate before I log in, fine. I mean, unless I'm OCD, but I'm not that OCD. Maybe some people are so OCD they say, 999, this is not the Amazon I'm used to, so I won't buy anything. But most people are probably going to be like, oh, okay, so it shows me the order details first now, and then they're going to be, you know, it's like navigating eBay. I firmly believe that the less you know about computers, the better you are at navigating eBay. Because so eBay, you know, you have the merchant or the buyer, and there's the username, and then in brackets there's a number that's totally meaningless, and then there's a star, and it's. So I think they have a server farm with keyboards and monkeys on them. So whenever you click one of the links, like the username, and sometimes it takes you to the reviews for that user, and sometimes to his profile, and sometimes you send him a private message. But most people are just like, yeah, you know, I'm kind of used to it after 7 years. It doesn't piss me off anymore, and I don't have to go half an hour of jogging to cool down after outrageously losing a bid because it's stupid. It's still on the German website. It still has this click here to watch this item in my eBay. And the link is not on click here, it's on my eBay. But when you click it, it doesn't take you to my eBay. It watches the item in your eBay. The US side fixed that, but I think the German side is still like this. And it's madly confusing, so you can do better. But let's assume that you have a nicely designed page, and Amazon is one of them. Although Amazon, does anyone here run a shop or something? Or some sort of reservation service? Nobody? Really? I have a question. Oh, yes, you. So here's the thing. You know when you go to Deutsche Bahn or Lufthansa or or a car rental service, or even Amazon, and you want to buy something, and the moment they try to sell you stuff, you can't go back. Like the link, the company link doesn't take you to the homepage anymore. There's no way out. They want to lock you in. Is that intentional? No, it's just badly designed. Okay. Okay, but so I need to continue. So that was the human web. And the machine web, so the question is, can computers do this as well, maybe? Because it's a bit, flaky in terms of how do you express all this? Like, can you teach a robot to buy exciting thing? Like, how does a robot even know that the s'mores maker is awesome? Right? Okay, but that's a different story. So let's keep that out. Let's just say the interactions. Can we teach a computer to discover the workflows of server office? So can a client say, oh, okay, so I know this, and so I'll follow that, and I don't have to know in advance what the possible interactions are because you tell me, dear server. Can we follow links like in the search results? Can we follow links on the next page until we have the product we want? Just paginate through 20 results at a time? Can we, I don't know, maybe handle without breaking, and that's the key, a change in how the resources are laid out? Maybe Amazon decides to not sell DVDs anymore directly. They outsource that to their LoveFilm subsidiary. So if I click buy this and then I get taken to the LoveFilm page, I as a human can deal with this. Because it's probably going to have you're signed in with your Amazon account, awesome, it's just a little user interface change, so click here to buy, and it's the rest of the experience is the same, right? But a machine is going to be like, meep, 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 does not compute, right? Usually. Or maybe a newly added information. Maybe I have some sort of API, and I want to add stuff. And then when you use SOAP, stuff breaks, right? And then your clients call, they're really angry, and your weekend's screwed. The answer is, yeah, we can do that. And it's really easy, because that's called REST. This stuff is what REST is about. REST is not about nicely formed URLs or HTTP status codes. REST is about interactions, about network architectures, about applications that can evolve over time. The problem is that usually people fuck up their REST APIs, right? Because then they can be like, hey, I have a REST API, and then the boss is happy, and the VCs give them money. Because VCs don't give you money if you don't have a REST API. No, seriously. Like, they're like, do you have a REST API? And then if you answer, do you know what REST is? Then they're going to be like, screw you, and go broke. So that's become an insane hype. And the reason is that REST is kind of a fluffy term. Everyone can attach some sort of meaning to it. It's become this buzzword, like Ajax. Ajax is exactly the same thing. Everyone did it after 2001 or so when IE started first supporting it. But until someone coined this marketing term, nobody cared about it. And REST was in this thesis from Roy Fielding, and it described back then how the web already worked, at least for humans, and how applications could leverage the same advantages of these interaction flows to be forward compatible, to be ever-changing, to be properly durable in the event of changes. But then the marketing folks show up, right? And they were like, wow, that's an awesome term, and it's 4 letters our customers don't understand, so let's use it for marketing. It's like the cloud hype. It makes me fucking angry. Because, no. I was in San Francisco 2 years ago, and that's when I knew the cloud thing that's hopeless. The term is, I'm in a bar, and this Scotsman shows up, and he's drunk and high, I think. He's like 40-something, and he says, America's awesome, and goes on about how he worked for Adobe. And then he offered me to buy cocaine. And I said, no, thank you. And he said, well, maybe you'd, I don't know, buy other drugs. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And then he's like, well, have you heard about the cloud? And I'm like, go on. I want to hear this. So he's like, so the cloud, if you have Windows on your computer, and then the cloud is the internet, and you want to download Photoshop, And then it downloads only the delta for Photoshop. And I said, the what? The delta. And I'm like, so it downloads the delta between Photoshop and Windows with Photoshop. And he said, yeah, that's just the delta. So I say, so it downloads Photoshop. No. Just the delta. The cloud is awesome. You can have Photoshop on every computer you own. And I'm like, okay, have a good night. And that conversation really happened. And it was terrible because, see, and now everyone has a cloud. And that's also terrible. Because when the cloud first started, it was such a revolutionary thing, right? It was Amazon once again. They said, hey, we have infrastructures, and maybe you don't always have the same utilization, so you just buy stuff on demand. And if you need 17 load balancers, then with a click of a button, they're there. And then the marketing folks were like, how do we sell this to end users and corporate customers? And then the tech guys were, well, you kind of don't sell it to end users. It's just fantastic, and it'll lower our costs. But I must sell things, otherwise I can't keep my Porsche. And then they attached this cloud thing to everything, right? So infrastructure as a service is fine. That's the cloud. Amazon and I boot a few EC2 instances. Stuff like Engine Yard, stuff like Orchestra.io for PHP, awesome guys, right? It's like you click a few things and it deploys a full stack of a PHP runtime environment on an EC2 for you, and everything's managed. That is the cloud. I've heard that Hotmail is the cloud email thing now. And seriously, in 1997, Hotmail was still around. And it was slow, but not the cloud. And today, and you know, everything's a cloud drive, and it's, yeah. So there's a hype about REST. And the problem is that this hype, like in the cloud, leads to a delusion of the actual value of the technology, right? It's people overlook the merits of REST, vastly overlook it, because they need to ship, they need to deliver, they need to convince their bosses. Nobody can quite put a finger on what the term means. So everyone just labels it that way. And by now, people are like, I don't care if it's not RESTful. I don't care. It's just, I'll call it REST, and this is my API, and as long as I have an API, everything's fine. But that's really sad, because things could be a lot better. And I'll try to explain it now. And as I said, if you want to have a further insight, more on the technical level, the talk right after this, if I can keep my voice, will elaborate further. But the idea is, you know how we had the web, and then we had the human web, and then the human brain, and then the machine web, and now it's time for the machine brain, right? We want Hypermedia coming to the rescue, solving the REST dilemma, because a RESTful API needs HateOS, which is a terrible term. It means Hypermedia as the engine of application state. And that's the one ingredient that everyone is always missing. And that disappoints me. Sometimes it enrages me, because I like raging about things, as you've noticed. But it also bothers other people, like Roy Fielding, who invented this term REST, right? So he said that I'm getting frustrated. I've never met him, so I don't know if frustrated means I'm not going to talk to you, or I'm going to cry, or I'm going to chop your head off with an axe. Could be any. But he said if the engine of application state is not being driven by a hypertext, then it cannot be RESTful, and thus not a REST API. And remember when I earlier said that hypertext and hypermedia are kind of the same thing? That's pretty much the case. There are some fine semantical differences, or there used to be, but nowadays the term is pretty much used interchangeably. I mean, we all know hypertext from HTML, right? You have semantic markup for your documents. And hypermedia is the same thing. The idea is that you have a well-understood media type that has defined semantics. And as such, if you use it, you implement these understandings for this media type. Because who has used RPC or SOAP? Aha, lots of you. Who has, so you know how in RPC or SOAP, the out-of-band knowledge drives the interaction, right? Something doesn't work, and you call the other guys, and they say, well, but you got to call init first, and then execute, right? And the idea is that in Hypermedia, driving the engine of application state, which is, you've seen this earlier, the David thing was just a state machine, basically, a big while loop following links. The idea is you have this Hypermedia type, and you understand what each element means. And from that understanding, of course, you could build a model of whatever resource you've fetched from the origin server, but the server can also embed links. And you can follow these links through so-called relations, and then go from one step to the other. So you could follow the links on the search result page. You still need some logic to determine that you like the product and that it's awesome, and that a s'mores maker is worth buying. But it could just work like a human. And you can build this. I've built this, and it's fun. So a very good example of an API that uses Hypermedia as the engine of application state fairly well is the Love Film API. Who has a Love Film subscription? Nobody? It's not a porn service. You can raise your hands. Really? Who has heard of it? Okay, so that's Amazon's DVD rental service, right? You go there, and I think it was British initially. Yeah, it's from the UK, I think. And they have an API. This is the beta version. Have not looked at it in a while, so they might have done some changes. And I hope this for you guys in the back, this is large enough. See, this is what a search returns for Star Wars or something. Old. I looked for old. Yeah, that's it. So it says total results 9, items per page 1. This is just for graphical user interfaces, so you can ignore this. But note the next 3 links. The first one is the link rel self. So it says, hey, this is where you're currently at. And then it says, there's a next item. And then it says, there's a last item. And that's the third from the top. See, and if I, as a Hypermedia client, want to interpret and consume this Hypermedia API, I need to program my client against this Hypermedia type. So the meaning of each element here is defined in a document. You could put it in a schema. You don't have to. You need to document it in some way. And then there's a search, right? So I know link rel self always means the element it's in, that's its URL, right? So in here, for instance, in the catalog title could be a link rel self pointing to the catalog title. And I also know that a search can have various other links in it. For instance, a link rel next. And from the semantics of this document type, it's clear that the next means the next search result page, right? So if I, as a client, want to scrape all the results for old from Love Film, I code a while loop. And the while loop says, while there's a next link, follow that next link and consume the page. Boom, done. And they can change this link in any way they want. The next link could point to Amazon, or I don't care, I just follow it, right? And in fact, they can do this with a lot of other cases. Here they have self, next, and last are globally understood link relations, the IANA, the IANA, the Internet Association for Name, Assigned Names and Numbers, I don't know. No, that's the ICANN. I don't know whatever IANA means. So these are well understood, right? And here are some link relations that these guys made up themselves. And they have a link relation for the reviews of that title. So they say, that's the reviews for Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic. These guys, as I said, got bought by Amazon. So tomorrow they could decide, hey, you know what? Amazon really has a lot better collection of reviews than we do. So we'll just talk to Amazon, and they set up a service that delivers the same media type that's done with a MIME type. And that returns the reviews in the same format that our clients have always gotten from our URL. And then they changed the href here to amazon.com/something/reviews or so. And no client ever breaks. And another cool part of this is that all of this uses the uniform interface. So I know that I can get the synopsis, right? That's the operation to read it. I can try and delete it. If I have the permissions, it's probably going to delete the synopsis, right? So with this uniform interface, I can say, hey, get me products 1, 2, 3, 4 from acme. What? Hold on. No, that's not good. That's evil.com. Because it's the evil stuff shop. Let me check the next slide as well. Yeah, see? That would have been evil. Evil.com. Hot fixing. Almost done. Yep, looks good. Save, click. So we go to evil.com, right? And we get the products 1, 2, 3, 4. And that returns a product. In this case, it's in the media type evil.shop.xml. It's the shark with friggin' laser beams attached to its head. And it costs €3.14, which freaks me out because that's too cheap for a shark with laser beams. I mean, everyone's going to have one at that price, right? So that's not good. But notice 2 things here. The first thing is that I, as a server, chose, this is not a must, but I chose to inform the client that he can use various HTTP methods called verbs on this same resource. So I can put to it to update it, and I can delete it to delete it. And also, I told the server, I understand the media type application/vendor.com.evil.shop plus XML. I did not say, give me application XML or give me application JSON, because application JSON and application XML have no semantic meaning. It's just a bunch of tags, right? There is no meaning to them. So you must invent your own media type, a hypermedia type, that can do state transitions and that has defined semantics for elements. And then you have a RESTful API. And thanks to the uniform interface, right? This has not much to do with Hypermedia. I can now fix the price by putting to the same URL the body that I got, but with a fixed price. And now the price is better. And it says 2 or 4 no content, right? Because that's fine. I mean, we could also return a 200 OK and say, yeah, thank you for updating the price of sharks with laser beams. But it's not really necessary. And the point of this also is not just following links and, not breaking when links change. It's also about evolvability. Sorry, creationists. If you have an OO or RPC style, you bind your client to the object graphs or procedures. And this is, so who has written SOAP clients that broke? Who has had to consume SOAP services that broke because the stupid server vendor updated something? Who has had to, pull an overnighter because you wanted to update something and it broke the client stuff? Wow. Half of the room used SOAP and nobody ever breaks anything. That's good stuff. I don't believe you. See, because the problem with SOAP is that it breaks clients all the time. You have this schema and you have this well-defined expression of what element can contain what values. And usually, you bind your domain objects, your problem domain, to the interface. So whenever you make an internal change, it's a pain in the neck to keep the clients in such a way that they don't break. It's usually impossible. And that's fine if you have 1 or 2 clients, but if it's 500 companies around the world in different time zones, the half of them is going to be like, our program doesn't work anymore, nobody understands this stuff, it just works, please don't break it. And then you can stop innovating now, and you can find a new job. That would be sad, right? It would be much better to expect the unexpected, or ask clients to expect the unexpected. So when I retrieve bacon, right, it's awesome. So I retrieve bacon for $5.99, and one of the fundamental one of the fundamental advantages that we've made compared to the past is that we can exchange data with self-delimiting markup. So, we don't move comma-separated values around anymore. That, you add a new column and everything's broken. Even if you add a column to the end, there's a chance that everything's broken because some people just insert into their SQL database, and then it says, I don't know this column. We have self-delimiting markup, so we can add things. We can express our love for bacon, for instance, right? We could do that. Or we can say we add a second price element. And no client should break, really. Because, I mean, what is a client going to do with this document? He's going to go to the product, and he's going to look for the first price element he finds. And if I add a second price element, I can add further information for newer clients and old clients that haven't yet updated to this new understanding, which is not essential to the understanding, so I don't have to break stuff, I don't have to break meaning. They can just, whenever they have time, they can update and they can display prices in different currencies, right? Or I could say, hey, I have 2 languages for the bacon now. You can also now buy Speck. And again, I can introduce links, right? So I say, the link to the category is such and such. And then the href, and it takes you to delicious stuff, yummy stuff. And the point is that this and the Hypermedia as the engine of application state, your clients become unbreakable. Or they should be, ideally. It's a lot of upfront effort. So you need to put time into it. And the crucial part is to do it from the beginning. This is important. If you know you're going to have multiple clients, you should make this investment. Everyone's going to love it. In fact, other companies could adopt your media type and could use it as well. And my iPhone app that's written against your service could work against other services as well because it doesn't make assumptions about what the URLs look like. The others could even have other category links and stuff. As long as the fundamental concept and the links are the same, we would have true interoperability on the web, right? So that I understand that doesn't fit so well with Scrum, for instance, and a lot of the tight budgets people have. Because like Twitter released a REST API, that's not RESTful. They're stuck with it forever. There's so many bad things in it that I'll point out in the next talk. They're stuck with it. They cannot, it's unfixable. They have features in the pipeline that they cannot do with their API. It's impossible. And that's sad. If you can do it, then you can help the web evolve with Hypermedia. And that'll be fun. Thank you.